You look under the modules. One of the things that is there is the course documents, and I have posted study guides. Okay, so let's say, for example, you have worked on the Chapter 1 study guide, and you look at the questions. The questions that you see, okay, like for example, define anatomy. You might actually see a question, a multiple choice question, if you might actually say, it might actually say something like, what is the definition of anatomy? And your choices might be form, function, and 2 other choices, okay? So you guys would know to tell me which one, form or function? Form. So that's how I work to get the test made, okay? I don't try to do anything that is going to be something you haven't been exposed to. Because I know like some do the, they might pull from footnotes or something to that effect. I don't do that, okay? If I give you something to label, it will be a picture that you have seen, okay? Either in the textbook, in the lab manual, and mostly what I use in my PowerPoints is the textbook or the lab manual, okay? So you shouldn't see, you shouldn't have anything you haven't seen.
So we just come here, right, to the exam, and also, do we need to bring like anything like a Scantron or like a Blue Book?
No, I provide everything that you need.
Okay.
So I create the answer sheet, so you don't have to worry about that. But don't forget, I think the way that I have it set up, we still, because of the way everything is, we still will do a little bit of lecture, but during the first part, take the test during the second part. Wednesday.
For the exam, is it going to be, like I know that at the end of the semester there's like the lab practical, but does the exam cover just the book or the lab, like the lab as well?
Mostly the book. If there is anything that shows up like lab-wise, it'll be something that we also covered in lecture.
Okay.
Okay? So not, maybe the only thing lab-wise would be a picture, but normally the picture in the lab will match something in the textbook. Format, like we talked about, it'll probably be labeling, multiple choice, matching. Won't be anything that's going to be difficult. We'll be working towards an essay, but probably that won't happen until probably getting closer to the end of the session, because of we want to get into more of our actual anatomy and physiology, like the tissues and stuff. Yeah. So this test, no essay or anything. Okay. Good deal. As you're working through your study guides, okay, if you have any questions about anything, because I know we don't see each other again until Monday, definitely, send me an email. I'll get back to you as quick as I can. then of course, if you have any questions, probably a good recommendation, be sure to start working on those study guides now. And on Monday, that way, if you're already looking at them, if you come in on Monday, if you have any specific questions, be sure to ask me on Monday before Wednesday. All right? Does that pretty much cover everything? Okay. So now, we're going to start Chapter 3. With Chapter 3, we are going to talk about the cell, and this is going to be, of course, the animal cell, because that's the cell that we're focused on. So, won't be talking any of the normal biology about plant cells. Now, before we begin this chapter, one of the parts of the cell that we're going to talk about is the plasma membrane. If you can understand the concept of the plasma membrane, you are going to understand everything else that you have to study for anatomy and physiology. So the majority of the chapter, pick up a copy, you guys, each one. The majority of the chapter is about the plasma membrane. I think at least half the slides are the plasma membrane. So hopefully that's letting you know how important the plasma membrane is. I've given you a handout, and as we go through talking about the topics, take a minute or two, take about a minute, real quick, read through this handout so that as we begin to talk about this with the PowerPoints, be sure to make notes on this because it will help with your study. So take about a minute and read through that. See, hear this?
prioritize the possibility of evaluating selected retrieval. What is it selected retrieval? Tell me the finding.
Of the first and second page.
Possibility of evaluating selectively permeable. And yeah, it was supposed to be starting with this.
Okay.
Or if you want to just leave it to remind you about it being selectively permeable, just don't have to fill it out twice. Okay. All right. So this is a lot of the information we're going to talk about with this plasma membrane. This is a good representation of the structure of the cell. If you're looking at this, this is normally what you would be seeing as being representative of an animal cell. As we continue to move forward, this structure we're going to find will not always be a round cell for the cells of our body. All right? So, but to get us oriented as to the parts of the cell, this is a very good representation. Now, for example, if you were to see this on the test, and I asked you to label the cell, that is something I would want you to be able to do. Okay? So, get familiar with the picture, and as we continue to talk about the parts of the cell, I would want you to be able to know the purpose of those parts. So, if we look at this picture, I'm kind of torn between what would be the most important part of the cell, okay? I know how important the nucleus is, okay? But due to knowledge that I have for the body, anatomy and physiology, I tend to lean towards the plasma membrane as being the most important part of the cell. And you'll learn why, okay? But the nucleus does contain our chromosomes, which are our genetic material, okay? Those chromosomes are the genetic material. And did we mention how many we have in each nucleus? 23 pairs, 46 molecules, okay, of DNA. And each molecule has those bases, and they make up our genes, okay? So on a strand of DNA, you'll have a gene after a gene after a gene after a gene after a gene, and each gene codes for a protein. That is important, okay? But my plasma membrane, or I should say the plasma membrane, it is selectively permeable. It is going to control what goes into the cell and what goes out of the cell. The cell cannot work if materials don't come in, or waste go out, or products go out. So yes, the nucleus of the cell, yeah, some people go, oh, that's the most important part. But that really can't function correctly if the plasma membrane